The 2023 NFL Draft is in the books, so let's recap what the Jacksonville Jaguars did. 13 selections over the course of this weekend. Mia O'Brien, Hayes Carlyon.
13?
13.
How did that happen?
Let's get to that in just a moment. A good thanks to our friends over at Travel Camp RV as well as Perfect Rack Billiards for sponsoring this post-draft recap. Yes, 13, Hayes. Say it again with me.
Whew.
Can't believe it.
That's one more than 12, right?
Yes, one more than 12,
wow.
Which we spoke to you after that first pick, Anton Harrison, offensive tackle, knowing the situation with Cam Robinson, also knowing the fact that Cam Robinson probably won't be back anyways in 2024. We said made sense. The route the Jaguars took after that first round, Hayes, how would you sum it up?
Perplexing, I think. At the end of the day, they have 13 players on inexpensive deals. That's a good thing. Hopefully 4 or 5 of them work out. If that happens, great draft. But it's a huge gamble because so many of those are happening in rounds where traditionally your percentage is going to be very low. I thought Friday was really disappointing to not be able to move up, get more of those high impact players. Trent Baalke said, obviously it wasn't for a lack of trying. And I understand you want to be faithful to your board, but also faithful to your principles in terms of what you're willing to allow. You don't want to get fleeced. But in hindsight, there's going to be, I think, a lot of pressure on the front office for Brenton Strange to deliver, which is hard for a tight end immediately. But I thought Friday it got sideways. And then Saturday, I don't think they really recovered.
Interesting. Okay, so the tight end, round 2, running back, round 3. Obviously, that's unconventional. But when we look back at it now and knowing how defensive heavy they went on Saturday, did Doug Peterson have the keys to the ignition throughout the course of this draft weekend? Yeah,
and look, that's fine if he did. Running back is a little puzzling, I think, in the 3rd round for where they are with ETN. And you've got a couple of capable backups. We'll see what Bigsby can bring to the table. But I think in looking at it, I was surprised of the directions they went. Ventrell Miller is a warrior, and he was by far Florida's best defender last year. But I think he's going to be kind of limited at this level. To take him in the 4th round, now you make up for it a little bit with Antonio Johnson in the 5th, and that was certainly their best pick if you look at value. Again, it's 13 players. They don't need them all to be good. They don't need half of them to be good. They probably aren't going to get that. But if they can get that 4 or 5, if they can get to that sweet spot where like 1's a star, 2 are really quality starters that most teams would like to have, and then you get another player or 2 that can just make it to the end of their rookie contract and be, solid for you, it'll be an outstanding draft. They're going to have to bank on picking so many players, throwing so many darts at the board is going to lead to some success.
You mentioned Antonio Johnson. Trent Baalke adamant that the Texas A&M safety is indeed a safety. He's not going to play the nickel corner position, but he told us after being drafted, nickel's his favorite spot. He can play all over the secondary, and that's something the Jaguars coveted. Knowing that, Hayes, and knowing that they did not draft a true nickel, and also knowing that I asked Trent Baalke who corner number 3 is, and he said it's Trey Herndon. What do you make of that gaping hole in the Jaguars defense?
I think it's got to be addressed. Obviously the comp pick formula expires Tuesday. So now the Jaguars can go and sign other free agents, and it's not going to affect the Jawan Taylor comp pick, Manhurts, Arden Key, any of that. So I would expect that they could certainly be active at that position. You don't have to go and splurge at nickel corner, particularly to get an upgrade over Trey Herndon, who, to his credit, has gotten everything out of his athletic ability, but is fairly limited in terms of what he can do. And I think we saw that last year. So they're right now relying on a couple young guys that certainly don't seem to be pure nickel corners, and then Trey Herndon, who isn't very athletic for the position. So I would think that that's where you pick up the phone and you start trying to see, is there a veteran out there that can come in and maybe play that position for you?
Leave me with this, a grade for the Jaguars 2023 draft class and your favorite pick.
I'll say it's a solid B because I like Anton Harrison. I'm glad that's the biggest pick, and I really thought that was an outstanding selection. So, and I do like volume. I mean, again, you're playing percentages here. Again, if a third of your guys work out of this draft, it'll be a pretty good draft. When you compare that to teams that only had like 7 picks, and they need 4 of 7, the Jaguars need 4 of 13. So there is a lot to like about it. Antonio Johnson's the only one that I see on the back half that has a chance of being a future starter here in 2024. So I think solid draft because of the ability to trade back on the first day, pick up 3 extra selections. They did add a 24 pick. That'll be handy a year from now. So more good than bad, I think, certainly for me. But that Friday, I thought they had a chance to really have an A+ kind of draft. That didn't happen.
Yeah, I would give him around that C+, B- as well. I do like the pick of Yasir Abdullah out of Louisville. He's obviously undersized. I kind of look at him, though, Hayes, and if the production from the college level carries over, he stuffs the stat sheet, I kind of get Yannick Ngakoue vibes.
Yeah,
I hate to say it. I don't want to set the bar too high for the 5th round pick, but I get that sort of vibe. And if you can get a designated pass rusher in the 5th round who's going to get you 6 to 8 sacks a year, that not only fills the hole left by Arden Key, it also would significantly increase the Jaguars in the sack department, an area they struggled in so mightily in 2022. That does it for this post-draft recap, again presented by Travel Camp RV and Perfect Rack Billiards.